It's the Go Gopher Podcast with Mike Grimm, episode number 157. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to the podcast. We're doing a double dose of podcast this week. I missed last week's show due to losing my voice. I'm thrilled to have most of my speaking ability back, and even more thrilled to welcome back to the podcast one of our all-time favorites, and quite frankly, he will now be the most frequent guest ever on the Go Gopher Podcast. Former Golden Gopher linebacker Mariano Sori-Marin is now the team's linebackers coach after receiving a promotion in the past couple of weeks. We'll ask him about his new position, about working for new defensive coordinator Danny Collins, about the upcoming offseason for the players, and much more. Mariano Sori-Marin will join us when we come back. Our Go Gopher Podcast is presented by alumni-owned Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. Get a confidential, no-cost, no-obligation business valuation started today. Make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union is also a big sponsor of the Go Gopher Podcast. Life math is complicated, and Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union makes it easier with local financial experts available to help in person or virtually. Go to affinityplus.org/Go Gophers for more info. They have an award-winning mobile app, so check that out as well. Longtime Gopher sports supporter, Cub is a proud supporter of the Go Gopher Podcast. In a hurry, don't worry. Cub delivers. Get fresh meat, produce, everyday essentials, and more delivered to your door. Cub is the official grocer of the Golden Gophers and proud to support Gopher athletics for over 20 years. The Go Gopher Podcast is also presented by OnX Maps. Find out how to download the OnX Fish app for free by listening to the Go Gopher Podcast. We're podcasting episode 157 from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We invite you to subscribe to the Go Gopher Podcast. It's free to do so. You can go back and listen to the previous Go Gopher Podcast. In fact, earlier this week, we took a sneak peek at the upcoming Gopher softball season with head coach Piper Ritter. She gave us a rundown on her 2025 squad. Go back and have a listen. This episode, we're talking Golden Gopher football with linebackers coach Mariano Sori-Marin. He'll join me next.
I'm Clay Geary, walk-on turned scholarship wide receiver for Gopher football.
And I'm Ben Utek, U of M alumni, Super Bowl champion, and Tony Dungy Uncommon Award winner.
We understand championship culture, which is why we're part of the True North family of companies.
True North invests in only elite teams, like the champion team at Sunbelt Business Advisors, Minnesota's largest seller of companies. To learn more about True North and our diverse family of independently owned companies, visit TrueNorthEquityPartners.com.
Keep the good times rolling without the regrets. Giggly THC beverages are your go-to for bold flavor and smooth vibes. Zero alcohol, no bad decisions. Just THC-infused cocktails, seltzers, and teas packed with natural ingredients and performance-boosting superfoods like ashwagandha and ginseng. Find Giggly at over 500 locations like Total Wine, MGM, and Cub Foods, or shop online at giggly.com. That's GIGLI.com. Ready to upgrade your drink game? Use the code Giggly North, as in Giggly Talk North. Giggly North, GIGLI North, for 50% off your first order. Giggly, sip smarter, feel better.
It's episode 157. There's never a bad time to talk Golden Gopher football, and we are welcoming to the show the new linebackers coach for the Golden Gophers and a familiar name, Mariano Sori-Marin. Hello, sir.
Hello, it's good to be back. Thank you for having me.
So I did a little research here. I think this is your fifth appearance on the Go Gopher Podcast, which makes you the most frequent guest of all time out of 157 episodes.
No, that's an honor.
How about that?
Nonetheless.
Well, it means you bring it every time, right?
I'm glad I've been invited back.
Yeah, here you are.
It's got to be good
Here
if
you
I'm
are.
getting
Well,
invited
something
back,
good had to happen, right? I mean, when you were a player, you were on, I think, once or twice a season. We did our food show, which is still one of the most listened to episodes. That was early. I think that was like episode 24 or something way back when you talked about the list that you made, right. And we'll get into that a little bit later on because I want to know if there's some new updates to the Mariano food list of restaurants around town.
Definitely some additions, and I'm excited to talk about those.
Outstanding. But obviously, part of why we wanted you now is because we're coming off some news here in the last couple of weeks in terms of the defensive staff especially. You have been promoted to linebackers coach. You'd been coaching linebackers and safeties and
yep. So I was working
nickels. And,
So I was working with the nickels this last season, and then recently got the promotion to the linebackers about 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So truly an honor, and just to be able to lead the position that I played here is incredibly special. And I take extreme pride and passion of being a Gopher, playing here, throwing on the maroon and gold, and now to be able to lead these guys once again is so special. And I'm so excited for the spring ball and in the season to come.
It's so cool too, because you think about when you were playing at Providence Catholic, a very high-end football program in the state of Illinois. You had opportunities to go wherever you basically wanted. You connected with this staff. You've been a Gopher. I think it was recognized pretty early on in your time that you were a student of the game, that maybe coaching was in your future. And PJ had talked about it during your playing days that, someday that guy's going to be a coach. And, think about senior year high school, Mariano. Would you have figured that it'd be this quick that you'd be rocking and rolling as a college coach?
No, and actually coming out of high school, I didn't think coaching was my future. So I always wanted to work investment banking, go to Wall Street, work in the Big Apple, do the finance side of things. And it was really about my second year of playing where I started thinking about what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And I was like, this game is so incredibly special. And I can't imagine a world where I'm not around it, where I'm not a part of a football team. And seeing how we connect as a team and the people that we have at Gopher Football, it made me realize that this is what I want to do. I wanted to coach and lead the next generation and leave an impact and allow those guys to ultimately reach their goals and dreams.
I know we talked about this when you were on the podcast, maybe toward the end of your playing career, maybe even in that off season. Obviously, everyone who plays someday says, boy, I'd love to get a shot at the NFL. You were basically like down to one knee, right?
Yeah.
By the time it was done here, you were trying to get it fixed. You were trying to make sure you finished your season playing on one knee, and then kind of take us through that, where the decision kind of ends up being made for you, like the body's just not going to cooperate.
Right. So like towards the end of my career, I started having some cartilage wear down and meniscus wear down, and you didn't quite realize how bad it was during the season, because you're doing everything you can, and you just figure, well, it's the wear and tear of the season, and once the season ends, it'll get better. And come to find out, once we really took a look inside of it after the season was over, it was like, hey, you don't got a lot of time left on this knee. And I did everything I could to go out to a training camp and work with the 49ers. And listen, I was in pain, but I put my best foot forward every single day and enjoyed and soaked in every part of the experience. And, I wasn't playing my best football at the time, but I think for me to be around an NFL program and in a locker room and just see guys that are at the best of their game, the Fred Warners, the Christian McCaffreys, learn from coaches like Kyle Shanahan, that was an invaluable experience that I would never, want to replace. So, the career, the NFL side of things ended a little quicker than I'd hoped, but, there's factors in life that are outside your control. And it was challenging in the moment, but, I knew when I was eventually waived and had to have surgery by them, that the first thing I wanted to do was get right back into football. I had a few workouts with some other teams, but just the discomfort and the pain and the wear and tear on the knee, I was like, maybe the end is here. And the first thing I did was I called up Coach Fleck. I called up Coach Rossi at the time, and I was like, listen, I'm done playing. I want to start coaching. They're like, how fast can you get here?
Yeah.
And it was actually halfway through the Nebraska game week of the 2023 season where I made that call. And they're like, yeah, how fast can you get here? And I was like, I'll come tomorrow. And I literally packed my things up. My mom's like, are you sure? I'm like, Mom, this is what I need to do. And I drove up there and I slept on Preston Jellin, my former roommate and teammate's couch for about 3.5 weeks before I found a place. But just to be able to be back in a locker room, back around a team, made that situation so much better. And I felt that comfort again. I was like, you were lost for a little bit when you're not a part of a football team, and that's all you've known known since you're in the third grade. And to finally be back a part of a team and then at a place where you take so much pride in and you care for so much made it all the better. And, the career the coaching side of things just took off from there. And, I've been very fortunate with the opportunities that have came since then.
I think, was that first job title like intern, right?
Yeah, so I was an unpaid intern.
Yeah,
they gave me analyst, but I was unpaid and I was working for free, but I wouldn't trade that for anything. And I use the word work, but it's truly not work. When you're able to pour into young men each and every day and come together for a common goal to go win some football game and really impact people's lives in so many ways on and off the football field, it's not work. It's a true passion and a calling that's why I take so much pride in doing it.
It's funny too, because you get, I'm around a lot. I go to a couple practices a week, see how guys work, see how coaches handle things, and I observe, and sometimes I'll offer thoughts just to the listening audience. But I love the idea when and oftentimes the visiting at games, the visiting coaches or the whatever, if we're on the road, the visiting radio booth is right next to the visiting coaches. At home, the home radio booth is right next to you guys. And it was immediate that you were now in the press box.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, the dumb radio guy, I just took great comfort when I watched the coaches get out of the elevator and we're just, everyone's minding their own business. And I look, I'm like, he's where he's got to be.
Right.
I mean, there was just a comfort level, just even as the radio guy observing this, like that's what Mariano should be doing.
Right. And it made perfect sense in my mind too. Cause one of my jobs on game day was really just watch the point of attack and, tell the coordinator what exactly happened on the last play. We weren't given iPads at the time where you could watch the replay. So everything was a live reaction from the box. And I literally just put myself in the linebacker's shoes and was able to rattle off what happened. And a few of the coaches were like, man, I've never seen a young coach, you'll be able to recite what exactly happened like that in the box. And I'm like, I just did what I've been doing the last 10, 15 years of my life. I just played linebacker and told the coach what happened. So, to be able to do that and learn at such a quick level is a credit to really all the coaches that poured into me throughout my time. They pour into us and make us smarter players. So when we do want to become coaches or we do go on to the next level, we're fully prepared. And that's why we have success in doing so.
Yeah. And at that time, Joe Rossi is the defensive coordinator. You played for him, obviously. And so you kind of know what he wants to know about what he's thinking. Like, okay, I'm going to set up a play call or whatever. What's happening here? And then you could just, boom, here's what happened the last play and whatever, and then offer input and have your back and forth.
Yeah, no, and playing Mike for him, and the Mike linebacker in the defense, as we know, is the leader. He's the quarterback out there. He's the one that has to make all the calls and checks, and he has to be the one that communicates it really to the coach once we come off the field. So to have that experience and have that relationship with him where I knew exactly what he was thinking and I knew what he wanted to get out of each call and each situation, that's why we were able to work so well together, so quickly.
Yeah, and then you're around now the team. You're an intern, and now here we are. Not even quite 2 years later.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
In a real position. I say it as if the previous wasn't real. I mean, you were working and contributing, but how cool is that now too? Now that you're in it.
No, it's like I started this thing with it's incredibly special, and sometimes there's work, but then this is my alma mater. This is my pride and passion. So I started this thing with, I don't see this as work. And to be in a real role leading guys that some of which I played with is truly special because I've seen their growth and development as a player, as a person, as a man, all those things from the day they got on campus to where they are now, makes you proud. And, my goal and mission as a coach is to pour everything I got into these young men and ultimately give them the best experience that they can possibly have here as a player. I look back and reflect on my time and I would do it all over again. Yeah. I had such a great time here. I met such amazing people. I did such cool things. Now my job is to allow those young men to have that exact experience, if not even better experience, to live out their dream as a what they had as a little kid to where they are now, let them live that out and ultimately go accomplish their goals.
You you talked with us on this podcast a lot about your joy in watching film. And I think if I remember right, you even mentioned you started watching film in youth football. You'd be 12 or 13 years old, an old VHS tape or whatever, watching games. And I've talked to players. I think you maybe have mentioned that Thomas Barber and some of these other guys helped when you first got here. Here's how to watch film. You would watch film and then you learn it. And now when Cody Lindenberg's on this podcast, he talks about, well, I learned what I needed to know from Mariano. Well, now you're, in essence, you helped coach him last year as well. And I'll ask you about Cody later on. But how much do you think that part of it, being able to identify tendencies and do all this stuff, the importance of film work has translated now for you, even when you were the intern, being able to recognize quickly, immediately what's happening because of your skill at film study?
Well, I think that's our advantage as a program, as a culture. Like the way we work and the way we prepare has what's made us so special. Like at the end of the day, we're not the highest recruiting class in the country, but we've beaten those teams. And we've shown throughout the years we've beaten the number 4 Penn State. We've topped the USCs when they're ranked. And that's because of how hard we prepare and how hard we work. And we're overachievers. We're blue-collar overachievers. And that's what Row the Boat's all about. That's what Gopher football is all about, is overachieving. So when we talk about like film study and preparation and looking at tendencies, that's our advantage. That's our shot. And you see it in the way we play. Like we're not a defense that makes mental errors, that makes busts. We play collective as a unit, all 11 guys rowing in the same direction, accomplishing the same goal, and that's why we've been able to have so much success.
Take me through, so you go from an intern, again, identifying point of attack as a responsibility. What is your duty now as 2 weeks on the job? Tell me about it, I guess.
Well, it's to recruit and develop the linebacker position and ultimately turn them into elite young men. And, the way I go about that is like, I'm going to put myself in their shoes. The advantage that I have as a young coach is I lived their experience not too long ago. I sat in the same chairs that those guys are sitting in now. So I have to do an elite job of figuring out how each kid learns, what is the best way for them to learn, and then ultimately provide them with the resources that they need and whatever it is to accomplish that. So when I say recruit and develop, I'm going to bring in elite young men, guys that fit our room, guys that fit our program and culture, guys that love the game of football. And then I'm going to develop them on and off the football field, academically, athletically, socially, spiritually. My job is to get them to where they want to go in all 4 areas of their life. So yes, we're going to propel them into the NFL. And we've shown and done that at the linebacker position. But listen, I'm going to teach them how to be an elite husband, elite father, elite brother. I'm going to teach them life skills, how to invest their money, how to change a car tire. All those types of things are things that we pour into our players. And as the linebacker coach, it's my duty and responsibility to get that done for the linebackers on this football team.
Well, your off season now too, obviously spring ball's coming up. Well, your off season, how much of it will be, obviously you're going to be watching film of high school players, potential transfer portal guys, maybe your own current guys, right? Reviewing from last year, who do you got back at the position and how do you want to play things? And will you also do some stuff, or is this mostly for analysts now that will, all right, well, let's take a look at the Iowa film from last year and start here in the spring and into the summer, planning not just for them, but for whoever else is on the schedule, Buffalo, for example, or the opener. It doesn't have to be Iowa or Wisconsin. You know who you're playing. How much of that will you be responsible for, and how much is analysts doing stuff, then giving you, here's what we found, now you study the next level here? Right.
So that's more of a summer project, and we do that as the season approaches. Right now, our big main focus is on us. Like we're worried about, one, our development in the weight room and on the field in terms of fundamentals, speed, development, conditioning, all that.
And by the way, we should mention you got to work in with the guys.
Yes, I did. I did work out with the guys this morning.
You're still staying in shape. Yes.
So when I talk about being in the mud with the boys, that's what I mean. But like I said, we're focused on ourselves. So yes, we're doing self-scout cut-ups, which means like, hey, we're going through each defensive call, breaking down the things, what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to switch, what do we like that we need to enforce and emphasize. And then also we're looking at individual film as well. So like sitting down with each linebacker individually, pulling key snaps throughout the season, things they did really well, things they didn't do well. How can we fix it? How do we need to reinforce those positive habits, those positive trained behaviors? So that ultimately, as we start going through spring ball and into fall camp eventually, that like they're ready to go for the season. And one of the other things that I like to do is I like to make a comparison for each of my linebackers to an NFL player. Similar body type, similar skill set, similar mindset. That way they can study that linebacker in the offseason and see, okay, how is a guy that's doing it at the highest level that's similar to me, how is he doing it? So they can pull some little nuggets from him. How does he defeat blocks? What are some of the things he does in the offseason? So that they can study that guy and just get in a little extra trinket here and there to help their game that much more.
Let me read a quick sponsor mention here. We've got Mariano Sori-Marin with us. We want to thank Affinity Plus. They're your local credit union, proudly serving Minnesota since 1930. If you're a current Gopher student or a proud Gopher alum, that makes you eligible to join this financial that wants to build a meaningful banking relationship and put you first. You can meet with a local employee at any of their branches statewide, including one here near campus on University in Minneapolis. To learn more and find other ways to connect, here's their webpage, affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. That's affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA, people-centered banking, perfect for Gophers.
When we say that Cub milk is the freshest in town, we mean it. Less than 48 hours from farm to store fresh. We guarantee 7 days or more of freshness. It all starts with local dairy farmers who take great care in making sure all the cows are happy and healthy. We support local farm families 365 days a year. And that makes our milk even more delicious. So you always get the freshest milk and the biggest smiles.
I want to ask you specific about a couple of guys. Cody Lindenberg. First of all, what was it like to help coach him? And Winston went through a little of this too, where you guys were teammates at one point, right? Yep. He's playing alongside you, and now you're in charge of. I know you were doing nickels and those things, but let's face it, you worked with the linebackers as well. So what was that dynamic like? And you'll still will there be anybody left?
Yeah, so I played with Maverick Baranowski. I played with Devin Williams. I played with like this senior class. Like those were really the young bucks. Those were the dudes you were bringing under your wing, right?
Yeah, those were the freshmen at the time.
So what's that dynamic like?
Yeah, so I'll start with Cody first. So like being able to work with him, like somebody that I played a lot of football with. I played alongside him, like a bunch of snaps, but it was really cool. And it's a credit to his maturity and his understanding of our relationship, coach to player, player to coach, that, listen, this is a guy that I learned from as a youngin', and he knows a lot of football. He's played a lot of football. And then he saw the work that I put in as a coach to continue to learn in so many different ways. So it was awesome because he just fully embraced it and soaked up every word that I had to say. And I learned a lot from him too. Like that's the cool part about coaching is like, it's not just the coach teaching the player. A lot of times the players teach the coach too, because everybody sees the game in a different way.
Sure.
What he sees out there is not what I saw out there. And that's why we work together in that relationship to ultimately get them to where they want to go. So to work alongside Cody with his maturity and his understanding of the game was really special. And to see where he came in as a freshman. I remember that 2020 Michigan game. Me and him started alongside of each other. He was a true freshman. It was a really tough game. And that was a hard time. But to see those hard times create us into strong men and a strong linebacker core and ultimately led to some elite defense is the process that we talk about every single day. So then ultimately now he's this elite linebacker that I'm able to, come back and coach. It made me proud because the work that I did as a player and then the work that I was able to do as a coach to get him to that point made me extremely proud. But at the end of the day, it was all Cody.
I was going to say, he was at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah,
when you go to the Senior Bowl, you're going to get drafted probably. I mean, he's got a nice future.
Yeah, he's got an awesome future, and his story is incredible as well. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. He dealt with some hard times as a player, but to see him ultimately put it all together this past year. Yeah. He played a full season completely healthy, and he played at the highest level. He was the first team all Big Ten linebacker. And at the time, as the course of the season, you don't quite realize it because you're in the day-to-day of a season. You're studying your opponent. You're there's not a lot of time. But after the season, when I was like, all right, I got to watch these linebackers and see some of the things we did well, and I'm throwing the cut-ups on, and I'm seeing Cody make play after play after play, and some of the plays are like mind-boggling. Like, how did he make that play? I was like, okay, yeah. We had a special one. Yeah. And for him to be at the Senior Bowl and have success there, he had an interception and a forced fumble within the first 2 practices. I was like, an NFL team's going to get a good one.
Yeah, and you look at what you think back to that Michigan game. Like, I think ideally at a place like you mentioned at Minnesota, where you're getting guys that are going to develop.
Right.
Like, ideally, his career track probably would have been covering punts and kicks as a freshman.
Right.
Getting bigger and stronger.
Yep.
And then being a sophomore starting linebacker or junior starting linebacker. But it was COVID, and there were different things, and all of a sudden, hey, freshman, go start against Michigan.
Yep.
And it wasn't probably the best game he's ever had in his life, but on the flip side of that, think of the valuable learning experience it probably was. That and the ultimate destination for him was probably going to end up the same either way. But what a track!
Well, I think when you're thrown to the fire at a young age, and we say baptism by fire, like, you learn lessons that you can't learn in the film room or in the classroom on the board. Like, you have to do it by failing. We say failing is growth, and like that's the truest thing that we talk about in our program. So yeah, as a young buck getting thrown out there as a freshman against Michigan, it was college game day.
Yeah.
Now, it was COVID, so there wasn't any fans, but it was still college game day. And to learn those valuable lessons like that ultimately is what made him the player he is today. Yeah. As he was able to learn and grow from those experiences and ultimately propel his career from there.
So obviously we wish him best of luck. Hopefully he gets drafted high, makes a bunch of money, can help with NIL for future Gophers, all that good stuff. You mentioned Baranowski and Devin Williams. Those are kind of the 2 guys that have played a lot that are coming back. There's others I know kind of wait in the wings, Kingsbury and others. I don't want to leave guys out, but how do you like your group for 2025?
I love them. Like, you look at the attitude and the culture within that room. Like, that those are special guys. How hard they work, how hard they prepare, how much they want to learn and grow, how much they love the game of football. Like, those are the things that you can't necessarily coach. And when those guys are eager to come into work each and every day because they love the game of football and because they love their teammates, that's what makes it so special. Yeah, we're going to make them good football players. Yeah, we're going to teach them the techniques, the fundamentals, the film study, all that. But when you have the drive, the passion, the energy, the juice to come into work every single day, that's what makes it special to coach a group of guys like that.
Are there specific things as a group that you want to see advance in spring ball? Like, are you on a whiteboard somewhere saying, here, I'm going to make it up, 4 things that this group, if they do these 4 things, we're going to have an unbelievable positional season?
Yeah, I mean, right now, like, the biggest thing that we're hitting on is our fundamentals. Like if you're on the football field and you can't move around, you can't block, destruct, you can't make tackles in space, like the basic fundamentals that you have to continue to hone. It's like sharpening a sword. Like, you sharpen a sword one time, but you use it a bunch, it's eventually going to become dull. You have to constantly sharpen your sword. The same thing is for fundamentals, and that's what this time of the year is for. So that's really what we've been focusing on. And then slowly, we've been building the blocks for our defense. With Coach Collins, our new defensive coordinator, we've talked about things, and we're really making an ultimately new and improved defense that's going to be elite in 2025. Then we're slowly implementing that part of it as well. Putting in our base calls, our blitzes, our things like that. We're putting that in and for them to start understanding the game at a deeper level is important. But our big main focus right now is getting bigger, faster, stronger, and then building those fundamentals.
You mentioned Danny Collins. He's the new defensive coordinator, and he has been within this program for a while now, and I've been impressed with him just watching and seeing how he carries himself. And, it's funny. I think I mentioned this with maybe if it was Cody. I can't remember now. But if you were just walking down the sidewalks of Minneapolis, everyone's got a vision of what a coach would look like and stuff. You probably wouldn't say, well, that guy's a defensive guru, right? You wouldn't. But boy, does he have some smarts to him and some charisma about the way he coaches. What's your impression of him as the new defensive coordinator?
Yeah, I mean, like the thing that I'll say about Danny Collins is nobody cares and loves more than that man. And I truly mean that. And it's interesting because when I came on campus as a junior in high school, the first person that I sat down with was Coach Collins. And we had Raising Cane's in the recruiting suite at the stadium. I'll never forget it. But Coach Collins, myself, and my parents sat down. And to hear that man talk about the game of football, to talk about being a part of a football team, to talk about his why, I knew in that moment that was a special individual. And then ultimately working alongside of him as a linebacker. He was the linebacker GA and then eventually the linebacker QC. To really learn from him throughout my career is why I was able to have a lot of the success that I did. And now to work alongside of him as a fellow coach, like, is truly incredible. And again, I go back to how much he loves and cares and pours into his career as a coach. How much he pours into his players is why they have so much success and why he's had so much success as a person.
I think a lot of us think of defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, and the first thing we think of is play calling, right? You got to be a good play caller if you're going to be. I mean, all of it is important, but you got to know the situation and call what's right. Nothing's going to be perfect. There's going to be, oh man, I should have done something else. How do you think he'll be as a play caller?
I think he'll be an elite play caller. What we say is like he hasn't always been the head chef,
right?
But he's seen how to make the sauce.
Yeah.
He's been in the kitchen and he's had a hand in a lot of the ingredients. So he's going to be an elite play caller. And I think what's going to make him such a special coordinator is not necessarily the X's and O's. He is and I'll sit here and say he is the smartest guy that I freaking know in football. But what he values and what we value as a program, it's not the X's and O's. It's the guys, it's the players, and how he is able to connect a unit, can build a culture within the defense, and connect each player and coach is what's going to make us a special defense. It's the people. It's not the X's and O's on the board. At the end of the day, every defensive coordinator in the country's got a scheme that when they put up there, they're like, oh yeah, that's nice. That should work. Yeah. It's connecting the people so they play extremely hard. They play for each other and they go out there and love. And it shows in how hard we play.
Yeah. And with him too, right? I know PJ at one time, I think talked about the fact that he said at some point, he's probably going to be my defensive coordinator. I think he was pretty close to pulling the trigger after Rossi left.
Yep.
And then thought, well, I think he let's give him another year or two and see where it unfolds. And then lo and behold, a year later, circumstances dictate that PJ was like, I'm done with this. We're not fooling around anymore. He's my guy.
Yep. No, I think like that experience was the best thing to happen for Coach and a lot of the guys on staff is because at the time we had known Rossi's defense and that was what we knew. We grew up in that and that was the main premise. And then to learn a completely new perspective from Coach Heatherman, his aggressiveness, his attack mentality. Now Coach Collins has this wide perspective. He has Coach Rossi's, he has Coach Heatherman's, and he is going to make it his own. And it's going to be really freaking awesome because it's starting to come together already. We've been together as a staff for about 2 weeks now, a week and a half since coming off the road, and we've put together some awesome stuff, some elite stuff on defense. And I'm excited. I'm excited for spring ball to come up to see it all finally be able to put on display on the football field.
Yeah, and you mentioned Heatherman and Lindenberg talked about this on the podcast too. Just there is something about the newness of what he brought that was of value, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, sure, if he's still here, it's great because he had a great year. You guys were amazing defensively last year, but you can't argue either with his new opportunity. He's going to be able to do what he wants to do. But what do you think the value that he brought to this, Heatherman I'm talking about, and what can you take from him and meld it in with, I guess, what Rossi laid the groundwork for when you were a player?
Yeah, I think like you look at their two systems and you were to look at it pre-snap, they would look basically identical. But each coach brought their own flair, their own flavor to it, where Rossi was extremely detailed and everything had an answer. And that's why we were so good, because we were so sound. And then Coach Heatherman brought this aggressiveness where it was like, hey, I'm going to let the players go rip and go fly. And guess what? our how and our attack mentality will make up for a lot of things. And now looking at the opportunity that Coach Collins has, he has these two completely different perspectives that fit within the same structure and same defense. Now he's able to pull what he likes from both of those and ultimately create this defense that fits him and fits our defense, fits our guys.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch as it unfolds. I want to mention one more sponsor before we finish with, I think will be a fun line of questioning here from Mariano. We do want to mention ice fishing is here. That means it's time to hit the frozen water with OnX Fish. It's the fish app and the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your confidence on the ice. Use OnX Fish to find new places to fish. You can sort by species, lakes, abundance, trophy, and keeper potentials. OnX Fish also shows you hot spots, lake-by-lake regulations, private and public land ownership info, and more. And now for a limited time, download OnX Fish for free in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Go to onxmaps.com/fish to get all the info on the app that is changing the game on ice. That's onxmaps.com/fish. We mentioned Winston briefly earlier. You guys were teammates. He took a track as well into coaching. Now he's gone. He's off to the NFL. And again, hard to. That's one thing PJ's always said is he wants guys to be able to take. Take the reins and develop leaders. And so there are times when an opportunity presents itself. And look, the National Football League is a good opportunity. What was it like a teammate of his working with him, and maybe in a sense you're kind of following a similar track to be here at your alma mater coaching?
Yeah, I think I'll start with this. It's a credit to Coach Fleck and how he has the ability to find elite coaches and ultimately develop them so they can go live out their dreams as coaches. He wants all of our assistant coaches to eventually live out their dream, whether it's to be a head coach, whether it's to be a coordinator, whatever it may be. But you look at Winston and myself, we're both former players. And for coach to be able to see, that talent and the groundwork for an elite coach at a young age and then ultimately bring us back and develop us into elite coaches is what makes Coach Fleck so special. And just being around Winston, the energy, the passion that he brings, you knew Winston was in the building the second he walked in those doors because of how loud and how much joy and passion he brought to everything he did, whether it was just saying hello or whether it was in his defensive line meetings. So for him to have the opportunity to go to the NFL and be a full-time D-line coach is truly incredible, and it's a testament to the work that he's put in. And he really has laid the groundwork for me and showed me the way how to be an elite young coach. And it all started from when I was a little freshman on campus. He was the old head, he was the senior, he was the one that was leading the team, leading the workouts, all those type of things. And to learn from him as a player and now learn from him as a coach was truly special. And I give him a lot of credit for where I am at today because he was able to, show me the way in so many ways.
Yeah, and you think a little bit of, I think, news developed this week that Muhammad Ibrahim is now going to join Kenny Burns, a former running back coach here, and he's going to get his shot as starting as a full-time assistant coach at Kent State, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, and I go back to Coach Fleck, allowing players and developing players and pouring into them so that they can reach their goals and dreams, whether it's playing in the NFL, whether it's becoming a doctor or lawyer, or whether it's being an elite coach. There is concrete evidence for players in our program going on to live out their dreams. And Winston, Mo, myself are living proof of that. So when you look at our program, our culture, and our guys going on to do so many elite things, like, for example, my former roommate, Preston Jellin, just got accepted to the University of Minnesota Med School. We are living proof of what Coach Fleck and the staff talks about every single day.
That's amazing. Yeah, congrats to him. I remember interviewing him not on this podcast, but I think it was on a Gopher Talk. Was that the Michigan game he blocked a punt?
Yeah.
That was that Michigan game we talked about earlier, right?
He blocked a punt.
So he blocked a punt. So I think we had him on a Gopher Talk, which at that time, because of COVID, we were doing everything on Zoom. And I remember him saying, I believe it was in that interview, that he wanted to be, he had gone through a couple of, I think he had was it the year after that he had the other knee or another knee injury. I remember being at practice the day that happened. I think his parents were there. It's terrible. But part of it was he wanted to be a doctor because of his experience as an athlete, right?
Yeah. Right. And you look at Preston and you look at countless guys. Connor Olson, he's in med school. Jack Kern, he's in dentistry school. There's so many guys that go on to live elite lives in whatever field it may be. NFL, like I said, whatever it may be, because of the tools and skills and resources that were poured into us here when we were football players.
All right, I've got a couple of quick questions here. You can make them brief, but I want to know, what is the most important thing you've learned from each of these people, okay? PJ Fleck. If you could pick one thing that in your time here with this program, from the time you met him as a high schooler to now, is there one? I mean, you've learned all kinds of stuff.
It's the how.
Okay.
And we, the how is how you do one thing is how you do everything. It's your unconquerable will, your spirit, your passion. And you look at how hard he works as a coach, how much he pours into his players, how much he pours into his coaches. That's what I've taken from him. And I've brought that to every aspect of my life. How I am as a young man, how I am as a coach. And I think that's the most important, because without the how, we're nothing.
All right. How about Joe Rossi, who was your coordinator for almost your whole time, right? As a freshman, there was the change, but I don't think you were playing much at that point either. So yeah. Joe Rossi.
Detail. Most detailed man that I've ever been around. He leaves no stone unturned. He works incredibly hard, and everything is precise. There is no corner cut. No corner cut, and you see it in his defense, his scheme, his organization, and then how much he pours into his player. Elite detail across the board.
And now you're recruiting against him.
Yep,
right?
We're recruiting against each other. But it'll be fun to see him back here in Minnesota this fall.
Michigan State comes to Huntington Bank Stadium. All right, Corey Etherman. We talked about him a little bit. What's the thing you'll take from him as a guy who you work for and under?
I think for Coach Etherman, the biggest thing is like allowing players to be who they are, allowing people to be who they are. He was very understanding of everybody's different skill strengths and abilities, that he just let people be who they were. And you saw that in how aggressive he was. Hey, go blitz, go find the football. And hey, this is how you like to coach. Go coach that way. Hey, this is how you like to learn. Go learn that way.
Trust people.
Yes, trust. 100%.
I'm going to put the ball in your court. Go do it.
Exactly right.
Danny Collins.
Love. And we define love as sacrifice in our program. The amount that he sacrifices throughout his own life, and then now him sacrificing as a coordinator, love, hands down, is what I've learned from Coach Collins.
One last football question, and this player doesn't fall under your purview as a positional player, but he seems like he's now starting to transcend a little bit. I want to ask you about Coy Parrish.
Yeah.
Local guy, had a huge impact as a freshman. He's going to get lots of hype now, right? I mean, this guy was a freshman first-team all-conference player. What kind of impact can he have in year two for this team in 2025?
I think he's going to continue to take his game to the next level. And you see it in how he works, but he's a special dude. He's a special kid. The way that people gravitate towards him and how he leads without sometimes being the most vocal, but when he is the standard of the work, people gravitate towards him, and he's got a swag to him. The way he carries himself,
different, right?
He's different cat. But guess what? Like, guys love him, and just that swagger is what allows him to play the way he does. He's not afraid of anything. He's not afraid of anything. He'll go jump that route. He'll go make that tackle in space because he knows he can do it. And guess what? He goes and does it.
The one, just a subtle thing that I noticed, and it wasn't right away because he wasn't playing a lot early, right? He wasn't returning punts. He wasn't, he would get in here and there. The Iowa game here, now he's in punt duty because Quentin got hurt, and it's a fair catch. I don't know if you remember. So he fair catches it, and the Iowa guy, the gunner, comes right up to him and they go face mask. I mean, the play's done, but he goes face mask to face mask and kind of pushes a little, talking about the Iowa guy. And Iowa's great on special teams. Right. We know that. So I'm sure that's, hey, we're going to impose our will. Mm-hmm. And Parrish just took it. He didn't like just hand the ball to the ref and run off. He takes a step and and pushes the guy with his helmet back. He's like, don't be messing with me, man. No. And I remember I think I even made the conference. Oh, okay, look at this.
Yeah.
And at that point, I realized that's a different cat right there.
Yeah, and to do that as a true freshman,
right? That's what I'm saying. That was like his second punt return of his career.
Because I remember, I think the first time he went out there and returned a kick, I don't know which game it was, but the first time this kid's out there returning a kick, he's waving his arms, he's pumping up the crowd. I'm like, to do that as a true freshman is remarkable.
And just be totally in comfort with it.
So nonchalant, so cool about it. But that's what makes him special. Because I remember when I went out there as a true freshman for some special teams reps, and I mean, that game is whizzing by. Like, I feel like I'm in the Super Bowl. Like, and he's out there. Listen, he treats it like the Super Bowl, but he's got that coolness to him and that swag that allows him to be a special player.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how the 2025 season unfolds. We're going overtime here. Sorry about that, but we can't have you on the podcast without getting a quick food update. Tell for those that missed the first, I think the very first time you were on here was during the summer, and we had like a long list. Tell me about the list again.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory on that.
Yeah, so there's this app called Belly where basically you rank and keep track of all the restaurants you've been to. And I think the last time I was on, I think I had about 175, 150 restaurants.
All here.
When I say 150, I'm talking the Twin Cities area. I'm up to over 600 in total on the list, but at the time I was about 150 for the Twin Cities. Now I'm well over 300. So I can send that list out. I'll send it to you. You can share it with the listeners. But there's been a lot of new additions. And that's a credit to the Twin Cities area. Like,
there's some good food.
There's some good food around here, and the food scene is really underrated. It really is. Like on a national scale, I put Minneapolis up there with the best.
There are a lot of good chefs here.
Yeah,
some are starting to make a name for themselves. Every now and then on the Food Network, you'll see one of these shows, and a chef shows up to judge or take part from here, and the names are out there. At the time, and some of it was because of your heritage, El Cubano was number one. Right. Are we still enjoying that place?
I'm still enjoying that place. I go there regularly, and they actually have a framed picture of me that's signed, in Gopher uniform in there. So it's funny. Every time I walk in, they get all excited. They start pulling out all their best food for me, and I'm like, guys, come on, like, just let me be. But no, that's still a place that hits near and dear to heart. And then there's been a lot of new additions as well.
Yeah, what do you got number right now if you were to recommend to Mike Grimm, hey, Grimmer, go to this place if you haven't?
I'm sending you to Porzana in North
Really?
Loop. Yeah,
okay.
A new Danny Del Prado restaurant. It's about a year and a half, maybe 2 years old. But Argentinian steakhouse. They got the skirt steaks that are cut with the chimichurri. They got empanadas. They got pasta. And it's a real cool interior as well. The dimmer lighting with the cool interior, the industrial look with the wood. It's an awesome spot to go to, so highly recommend.
Name again?
Porzana in North Loop. Yep.
Give me two more.
Oh man, the two classics that come to mind are Billy Sushi. Billy Sushi is a fun and exciting spot as well. You're getting a little bit of the Miami vibe with the music in there and the lights and the decor. And then last one, I got to go Bar La Grassa. All North Loop spots, but I live over there, so I'm a little biased. But Bar La Grassa is a little bit more of a contemporary Italian. It's not your typical, white tablecloth spaghetti and meatball spot. It's a little bit more of a modern Italian with some different flares on things. So those three spots, and then El Cubano are my go-tos. I'm regulars in those spots.
How frustrating, disappointing, and downright ticked off are you that NIL came along after your career? Think of the deals you could have been cutting, NIL, and getting free food all those.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing I didn't get free food at some of these places because they probably would have moved me to the defensive line. So
you'd have eaten yourself right into nose tackle.
No doubt, exactly.
Well, that's awesome. So cool spots there. The list is over 300 now.
Over 300 for Minneapolis, 600 in total.
We'll have to have you back. We'll do a total recap when things calm down. Calm down for football coaches is like maybe 3 days in July or something. But
we might have to go around the Twin Cities like a little triple D action here on the podcast.
Yeah, we could do a what was your
Meals with Mariano.
Meals with Mariano.
Yeah, we'll have to
revitalize that.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Well, I will let you get back to it. I said we go a half hour. We're sitting here at about 45 minutes, but that's what happens when you bring the compelling content, sir.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad.
Well, congrats on the new position.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for you. It's such a great fit, such a great mix, and I'm serious about that. It feels comfortable watching watching you as a coach of this program.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And back her up. That's what I said when I played her. Back her up is back, as I like to say right now.
It is back indeed. It is back indeed. All right, there he is, Mariano Sori-Marin. It's episode 157. My thanks to Gopher linebackers coach Mariano Sori-Marin for joining me in this week's Go Gopher podcast. Always great to talk football and always great to catch up with our guy Mariano. I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. Episode 157 is presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. We're also partnered with Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, a locally member-owned full-service financial invested in you. You can learn more at affinityplus.org/GoGophers. affinityplus.org/GoGophers. Affinity Plus, proud sponsor of Gopher Athletics and the Go Gopher podcast. And Cub is a proud supporter of Gopher Athletics for over 20 years and a proud sponsor of the Go Gopher podcast with Mike Grimm. Cub, bigger savings for the items you love. OnX Maps also sponsors our show. Happy fishing. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and please right now click that subscribe button to the Go Gopher podcast. It's free to subscribe and free to listen at any time. And please share the link to the podcast with others so they can subscribe and listen as well. And if you enjoyed the podcast, give us some positive feedback on your social media channels. We'll talk again next week.